The intersection of AI and cloud native technologies is quickly becoming the new industry standard. And with this shift, what does it really mean for organizations to fully embrace cloud native architecture, containerization within their IT organization? Welcome to the Nutanix CXO Pulse. I'm Jordan Risers. Joining me today to discuss this shift and what it means for the future of IT are Dariush and Paul Harb. Looking forward to jumping in. According to our latest findings in the 7th annual ECI, nearly 90% of organizations report that at least some of their applications are now containerized. And with the rapid adoption of new workloads like Gen AI, containerization has emerged as the de facto standard for scalability, portability, and agility. All right, so Dariush, when you think about it, I've heard a stat, 94% of organizations will be using containers by 2029, so only 4 years away effectively. What do you think this means for organizations and how do they deal with it?
It means a lot, Jordan. The fact is, what got us here won't get us there. That's the reality. And the survey you referenced to, the annual Enterprise Cloud Index, does show and articulate the fact that 81% of the respondents has mentioned that organization can benefit from improving their infrastructure to make it more cloud native ready. And when you look at, I guess, elements underneath that, what does it mean? What do we have to do to be ready for this cloud native era? First of all, is the data quality, the data governance and security aspect of it. Now we linking data lakes together, and the AI models can kind of learn a lot from the data we have. Potentially, there are data in there that is not for public consumption or the targeted audience of the model itself. Also, there is ethical uses of AI itself. One element that highlighted time after time in many different studies is the skill shortage. The fact that the DevOps teams and the platform engineering teams are new. And we know this notion that organizations, either like it or not, they're going to become a software development house. And are they ready? And the fast pace of this development sometimes is not aligned with the expectation of the C-level. So that's the major findings that I see in the industry.
And how do you see it from your perspective, Paul?
Well, what I see in the market is something like, I think the ECI report talks about 54% of organizations have already modernized one or containerized at least, some of their apps. So that means a lot of them are doing things and trying. But what's different today than the past is that when containers first came out, 5-10 years ago, they used to be ephemeral. They'd spin up, you'd tear them down. There was really no data. There was no need to back anything up. Today, that's not the case. Today, these modern apps that are containerized need data. And they have to have data that's persistent and have to have access to different types of data that are running in different clouds. And that's more of a traditional IT problem, because when you have data and you have persistence, you have to do backup and disaster recovery and replication and all these things that you used to not have to do. So it's a lot more complicated. So I think it's good that organizations are starting on that journey, but I definitely don't think they're there.
I think you bring up an interesting point as well. When you think about it from the perspective of, I'm just supporting my website with an app that I've written versus I'm doing something that's mission critical, something that's related to my banking information or something that's related to a flight I'm taking. I think there's a lot of different requirements that you have, not just in actually the application itself, but in what happens if someone made a decision off that. How do you go back and look at that? So there's a new set of requirements that maybe we didn't have before as people start to do more with mission critical applications and containers versus you doing things in an IT function. And I'm not sure if you're seeing that from a customer perspective as well.
I certainly do. What we've done in the past has not paved the path for the road and the journey ahead. And I think in the previous episode of this CXO Pulse meeting, Paul, you mentioned about the 4 phases that the organization go through. The first phase is so new to us because it's a centralized model. It needs so much resources around compute and around what GPUs can do. And not many organizations have the capacity to do that themselves. So we have to go to hyperscalers and do it in the cloud. But interesting enough, the few phases after that become decentralized. Now you can run your containers anywhere. And the question is, are we ready to run our containers anyway?
Yeah.
So what happens in today to operation, the reality around infrastructure management, DevOps things, they think the storage allocation, memory allocation, compute allocation is the API call. But the reality is someone has to make the infrastructure, the traditional infrastructure ready for that. So these are the things that we hear in the industry that we have to be ready.